And lads, be of good cheer, for the Irish land will soon draw near. In a few more days we'll sight Cape Clear. Oh, Jenny, get your oat cake done.
Captain James Cook was a British sailor who commanded 3 voyages around the world on missions to discover unknown lands and chart water routes to the Pacific Ocean. The Secretary of the Royal Society for Improving Natural Knowledge, an organization of British scientists, is interviewing 3 people who sailed with Captain Cook on his voyages.
The Secretary of the Royal Society of Improving Natural Knowledge.
Lieutenant Gore of the Endeavour.
William Bailey, sailor.
Captain Clerk of the Endeavour.
Josephina Banks, botanist.
Gentlemen and ladies, we are honored to have you here today to describe the remarkable achievements of Captain John Cook, made by our 3 voyages. What were some of the special things we have learned and saw on the first voyage?
As you know, I was the botanist on the first voyage, and we did discover an enormous number of new plants and creatures of every description. In Australia, we saw kangaroos for the first time. I shot one, and we found that it tasted quite good, especially to men who were hungry for the taste of fresh meat.
We carefully explored the eastern side of Australia that had never been seen by Europeans before. Captain Cook charted the coast as he did with all of our explorations. You may be absolutely assured that his charts are precisely accurate. If he says land is there, it is.
We also discovered the Great Barrier Reef, a huge underground reef made of coral which is over 1,000 miles long. It is magnificent and extremely colorful.
It almost killed us too. We discovered the reef when we ran into it and smashed a huge hole in the Endeavour. We had to throw much of our equipment off the ship to lighten our load and pump out tons of water. It was a miracle that part of the reef actually stuck in the hole and kept the ship partially afloat.
As a plant specialist, I was especially impressed by Captain Cook's determination to keep his crew safe from scurvy. You all know that hundreds of thousands of sailors have died of that dreaded disease. He had heard that certain plants and foods might prevent it. The captain was forever testing new plants, fruits, and grasses on the crew. We had a large stock of orange and lemon syrups and 4 tons of sauerkraut, a kind of pickled cabbage. The men hated it at first, but eventually they learned to enjoy it.
The men weren't fond of Captain's insistent that they eat these foods or keep their quarters clean, but it worked. We all know that some ships have become death ships with every sailor dead from scurvy. The symptoms are clear. Teeth rot and fall out, joints swell, bodies become covered with sores, and men lose the strength to work. They become listless and die. The captain was strict that he even insisted that sailors keep their hands clean. We never lost a sailor to scurvy. No other ship can make that boast.
Indeed. Tell us about the natives you encountered. I know you had some problems with those people.
The Aborigines of Australia were the saddest group we met. They are very primitive. They appear to be nomadic. We got along well with them, but they mostly avoided us, and they were the only people who didn't seem to want to trade for anything we had.
The Maori are one of the many Polynesian tribes we met on our voyages. These natives of New Zealand tattoo their faces and bodies, and they can be very warlike. They immediately came out to our ships with war canoes. At first, they were unwilling to trade and wanted to fight with us, as they do with each other. Clans are often at war.
In one incident, several shots were fired and some Maori tribesmen were killed. We captured 3 boys and brought them aboard ship, treating them kindly as the captain ordered. Eventually, we made peace with the tribe, which you do by touching nose to nose.
On our second voyage, 10 of our men had a fight with the Maori while searching for provisions on shore. They were killed. The Tahitians had some strange customs. Women will feed an important chief by putting food in his mouth, but women never eat with the men. Young girls as young as 12 are given tattoos over their legs. A really important chief did not walk. He was carried on the shoulders of another tribesman.
The Tahitians and most of the other island people had one habit that frustrated the captain and really enraged him. They stole.
They stole everything. It was almost a game to them. They were willing to trade for goods, but they also took everything they could find. Nails, food, rowboats, weapons, and clothes. We never understood why they did it, and none of the islanders could ever give us a reason other than that they just wanted to. They didn't steal property from each other, just from us.
That was the reason the captain was killed on our third voyage. We discovered the Sandwich Islands that he named for the Earl of Sandwich, who is a great supporter of exploration. The Hawaiians who inhabit these islands originally welcomed us with open arms. They threw a huge party. So many Hawaiians sailed out to our ship and climbed aboard that it lifted to one side and almost fell over in the harbor.
The natives seemed to think that Captain Cook was a god named Lono. We arrived just at the time of year when they celebrate his feast. However, a few days after we left, the Resolution broke a mast and sprung a leak, and we had to return to the islands. This time, the Hawaiians were unfriendly and angry. They stole everything they could, and they threw stones at our crew getting fresh water.
The natives stole a small boat and the captain went ashore to protest. He was extremely angry at the pilferage of our possessions and went almost crazy as he had on a few other occasions when the natives simply didn't behave honestly. They attacked and killed him.
We were unable to mount an attack to save him because our men were scattered in many places.
Did you have any success in locating the passages of the Atlantic Ocean through the North America?
Captain Cook sailed into ice fields so thick with icebergs and frozen glaciers that there was no possible passage. I did the same in the months after his death. We did not see anything that might even suggest such as passage.
It is interesting that the voyages were so successful, but none of the objectives of the voyages were ever achieved. On your first voyage, you were unable to clearly observe the movement of Venus across the face of the sun because of the atmospheric problems. Nothing could be done about that, of course. You did not find the southern continent on either voyage, of course, but Captain Cook carefully charted the land and ocean routes, clearly indicating there was no such continent. You did not find the northwest passage, which probably does not exist either.
We did sail farther toward the South Pole than any ship had ever had on our first two voyages. We saw endless ice and massive chunks of floating ice higher than some mountains. The voyages through the southern seas searching for that continent were frightening. Ice can tear up ships. It disheartened the men and the cold was terrible. Only Captain Cook's leadership kept us going.
Gentlemen, your voyages with Captain Cook have added immensely to our knowledge of the world. It is clear that Captain Cook's explorations were extraordinary, and our success as a crew will long be remembered by Great Britain and the world.
Captain Cook's 3 voyages mapped a large part of the unknown world and introduced Europeans to several Polynesian cultures on Easter Island, the Society Islands, and Hawaiian. Captain Cook respected the cultures and the people he met, and was generally understanding of the differences between their beliefs and those of his own culture. An unfortunate result of these discoveries was that future conflicts between European sailors and colonial powers were much more violent and led to mass depopulation of the peoples.